Happy Saturday morning. We are officially 9 days away from Matthew Stafford, Sean McVay, and the LA Rams showing their faces back to town after that wild card round thriller that we faced against them a few months ago. Rosters are all set for the most part. Names have been cut, names have been brought in. Ashanti, you got that down pat. What happened over the past week?
Yeah, I mean, it was just a situation where this team. It wasn't like it was like a lot of roster spots that were available to begin with. But you do want to see, your draft picks. You do want to see, undrafted um, guys that you brought in, kind of, show or make a case for making a roster. You know what I mean? Because Dan Campbell's always said from the beginning that, nobody is, should feel comfortable. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't think he's directing that towards any player per se, but I think he's just got this team with the mentality that, this is the NFL, man, and at any given uh any given time your name can get called, your number can come up, via injury or just flat out, just outplay the guy in front of you. You know what I mean? For example, like a guy like Isaiah Williams. You know what I'm saying? And I think you agree with me. We agree with each other. Is Isaiah Williams deserve to make this team, man? You know what I'm saying? I don't. People say, well, preseason doesn't mean anything. Tell Isaiah Williams that. You know what I'm saying? Tell him that this
Right.
preseason didn't mean nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because all the guy did is went out there and made plays. It's not his fault. He's out there playing against, Kansas City and their third string players. I mean, he went out there and solidified and literally took the spot away from DPJ. You know what I'm saying? Basically what happened. They kind of swapped positions. But
Antoine Green as well.
yeah, Antoine Green, unfortunately he got hurt, but still, yeah, I mean, he was more productive in one preseason than Antoine Green has been here too. So, well, one in three quarters, or one and a quarter. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, he really caught my eye. I thought, actually, I laughed at Giovanni Manu. I mean, and the kids got some tools, man. I mean, I don't think I wanted to see the footwork ability, the him be able to actually, stand in front of his man and actually be a productive, something that you can produce, man. And I think with him, yeah, I wouldn't have took him as high as they took him, but you could see it's something there. He's a mountain of a dude, sort of like Dan Skipper. He's a big guy. Obviously Manu's not going to play much this season, but that was the preseason is about to develop our players. You know what I'm saying? Another guy that stood out was Enos Rakestraw, man. I
Yeah.
really think that is just something about this guy, man. I don't think some players have things that you can't coach. Okay, and it's like whatever he has, I'm just gonna say it like this: whatever Rakestraw has, we need it. You know what I'm saying in that secondary, and I think, I mean, I'm not saying he's the greatest corner coming out of this draft. I'm not saying that. For what I think, for what Aaron Glenn is trying to do and for what this team is trying to do, I think he's perfect complement to the whole scheme of this whole thing. Me and you was talking about, on the pre-show about, how Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes are stuck to their guns with this team, and they haven't really signed any big free agents. Every free agent that comes available, everybody you see in the media, Walt, they say, well, why don't we sign this guy? Oh, this guy's available. Why don't we sign this guy? Or this guy's available. Why don't we just sign him and everything? Like Matthew Judon. I wanted Judon. You know what I'm saying? But, I'm pretty sure you did too. And I think everybody in Lions community wanted Matthew Judon, but I think they're going for Marcus Davenport. I
They
think that,
wanted Daniil Hunter too.
yeah, Daniil Hunt. Yeah,
Well, we
exactly.
wanted Daniil Hunter. I
Yeah,
think
I
you know.
want them
Yeah.
too. You know what I'm saying? And they sticking to their guns, and that's like you said, you got to respect it because it's working. You know what I mean? Like you said, as a championship team, you don't see that too often, man. You usually see a team like Philly constantly sign guys, San Francisco constantly signs like big name players, even though they might have that spot already filled. They'll bring another guy at the same position, like Jahan Dotson. I mean, the Eagles signed him, and
Yeah.
they receiver room was already damn good to begin with. You know what I'm saying? It's like Jahan Dotson just elevated what they already were. So yeah, I like Mekhi Wingo, Walt, that he was taking some snaps. You know, he was in there a lot. The only thing, like I said, Brandon Joseph too. Brandon Joseph is another guy that made the team, man, and he's another guy that's developed under this regime. So we talked about Malcolm Rodriguez
Nat.
being, I hate the damn Nats. We talked about Malcolm Rodriguez being here since the beginning, and he's sort of like with fans, he's like an afterthought now. But Malcolm Rodriguez is part of what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he sucks or he can't play. It's just he serves a purpose, man. He serves a role, and I think Brad Holmes has been masterful at getting guys that serves a role and purpose. So yeah, I mean, if I had to recap everything as a whole, and I'll let you take it away, Walt. Um, Isaiah Wade making a team, I thought that was huge. I don't think it was just he made it because we needed somebody. I think he forced his way on the roster as well as Brandon Joseph. I think both those guys deserve to be on the team. Okay, Hendon Hooker. I mean, you can't not talk about the lines and not say anything about Hendon Hooker, man. I mean, the talent is there. It's obvious. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't have beat out Nate Sudfeld. He wouldn't have convinced his coaching staff that he was the second best quarterback on this team for nothing. I mean, they didn't do it just to do it. I mean, I think he convinced everybody in the
Yeah, I
organization
agree.
that he's the guy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, don't take nothing away from the guy, man. I hear people just saying he didn't, he made mistakes, and of course, man. I mean, he's basically a rookie out there. So I think it's a perfect situation for him. Walt, I don't think he has to force his way on the field right now. You know what I mean? Just take your time, learn the playbook. You know what I'm saying? Gain more confidence, gain more muscle, gain a little bit more strength. Upper body. If he's going to be running, and running for first downs, he's got to learn how to slide. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't lower the shoulder, and try to take on a linebacker if I was him, too many times. You know what I mean? That kind of make me cringe. It don't matter if it's him or anybody, but yeah, I like what I saw. I mean, it's preseason, man. You really can't take too much, but for me, it's the young guys. Obviously the older the vets, the guy that's going to carry this team is not going to play. So for me, I like what I saw. You know what I'm saying? The kicking situation is still kind of shaky, but I think it's fine. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. I do think it's going to come a time this year where you're going to need it. I think people are naive to think, well, Dan just going to go for it every play. I think that's asinine to think that
Oh,
way.
it's going to become a big deal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's,
Oh
it's
yeah.
going to become a big deal. If you think
Yeah.
special teams isn't a valuable part of football, you crazy. I think a
Yeah.
lot of fans have gotten, to your point, they've gotten a little diluted mentally with what it actually takes to win football games. Um, there's really no proof of any team historically in the NFL winning without a kicker. You can go back to the early 90s with the Dallas Cowboys. I forgot the name of the kicker they had, but he was really damn good. Of course, the New England Patriots had Adam Vinatieri. The
Mhm.
Baltimore Ravens had one of the best kickers in the league for the last 6+ years.
Yeah.
The
Justin
kicking
Tucker.
matters. Look at the Kansas
Yeah.
City Chiefs with Harrison Butker.
Yeah.
He's a damn good kicker. So I think you can get a little diluted with the gambling. And we've discussed this, like even outside of football, gambling cannot be considered a consistent way to win.
Yeah.
Whether you're talking about gambling being your consistent way to make money in life or gambling being your consistent way of winning, that's not the way things go. So
Yeah.
yeah, I agree 100%, man. And I like what you said about DPJ. I think a lot of fans around here, as far as Michigan fans, I've heard fans say, well, I don't understand how they managed to cut him. You can't tell me you can't find a spot for him. You got to look at it for what it is, man. They gave this man every opportunity since the trade deadline. They brought him over here to replace Josh Reynolds. We just being honest about it. And he had a leg up on everybody. So I don't think this regime doesn't strike me as a regime that would just play favorites and cut somebody just for the hell of it. I don't think they went into this offseason after the draft saying to themselves, we anticipate going into the 2024 season with the undrafted free agent as our third wide receiver. I think it just happened that way.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
whole offseason unfolded that way because nobody else stood up.
Yeah.
So if it just so happens a 5'8" undrafted rookie is the guy that outperformed everybody, then hey, that is who should be playing. Me and you both agreed that we're both disappointed in the fact that DPJ, you looking at the size, the athleticism, what the hell happened? Like, you're a veteran. Are you not working hard enough in practice? Are you overweight? Like, what happened to the point that DPJ just wasn't even able to make the active roster? Like, it's something had to happen. I think fans really need to understand that too.
Yeah. Yeah, correct. Well, absolutely right. You know what I'm saying? As far as the undrafted guys, and it's a perfect segue to what we're going to talk about. Tim, they brought in
Pat,
Tim Patrick. Excuse me.
yeah,
I was going to say Tim Parker. Tim Patrick from the Denver Broncos. Highly productive, man. The first couple seasons in the league, man. He went from the first 2 years of his career with 11 total touchdowns, over 100 catches, over 1,400 yards for the Broncos, man, to going the last two injury riddled seasons to 40 catches and one touchdown, respectively. So, for him, something's got to give. I never get excited about bringing on an injured player. I'm not expecting much. It is something there. I mean, obviously, I play fantasy football, so I've seen Tim Patrick perform. He can, but I don't know. When coming off an injury like that, whenever it's your ACL, knee, whatever, a dreaded hamstring, all those things play a part with the receiver, and cuts and speed, and able to be not physical enough or anything like that. He can play, you know what I'm saying? Well, let's see what he got. I mean, I'm not expecting much, but I do understand why you would bring him in. You know what I'm saying? We do need that body type, um, that elusiveness. I keep saying, I've been saying it for 3 years. And Josh Reynolds, and make no mistake about it, Josh Reynolds is ironically on the Broncos roster right now. It's sort of like they switch teams, you know what I'm saying? Because he's filling a role that Patrick didn't fill the last 2 years. And then, ironically, we're looking for Patrick to fulfill the role that Josh Reynolds has had here the last 2 years. You know what I'm saying? Josh Reynolds was highly productive inside the 20, man. And he big body. He can get you 18 yards on a rip, 20 yards on a rip, like that, middle of the field, stuff like that. Allen Robinson, another guy that's on the. Now, I like this move a little bit more, even though Allen Robinson hasn't been that great like the last
is
year
a shell of him, his old self.
of Osa, right? Out of his 10 years, 5 years out of the 10, he's played every game. You know what I'm saying? He's got 43 career touchdowns, man. His best productive years, he was in Chicago 19 and 20. And in those years, he had 98 catches, 102 respectively, with over 1147 and then a 1250 and yardage. And then he had 13 total touchdowns in 2 years. So, but like you said, that was an afterthought, man. It's 5 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Putting up them
Well,
numbers. So
Jacksonville as well. I
yeah,
think
Jacksonville.
Jacksonville and Chicago were his
Yes.
two biggest, not
Yeah.
biggest, but his two. Those were his most productive seasons. Now he wasted a lot of those younger productive seasons with Blake Bortles and Blaine Gabbert and
Hmm.
Mitchell Trubisky,
Hmm.
for that matter. But um, I like Allen Robinson. The whole
Yeah.
thing is that, like I said, since he's left Chicago, things have kind of like not necessarily gone downhill, but I think life in the NFL has kind of caught up with Allen Robinson. He was
Hmm.
never really the most elusive guy. He was never really a guy that could separate that much, even going back to when he was at Penn State. But like I said, he's a big body guy. He's a veteran, and all you really
Yeah.
need him to do is to play his role within that offense, which is because he's not going to be the first option. He's not going to be the second. He's not going to be the third. You can argue in some games and some matchups, he may not even be the fourth option. In some of those games, Jameer Gibbs may be the fourth option out of the backfield as a pass catcher. But he's going to be that third down guy. All you need Allen to be able to do is get to the sticks. Well, get 5 yards past the sticks, as they say. If it's 3rd and 10, I need you to run a 15-yard route. Get
Yeah.
to the sticks, make the catch.
That's
and
right.
also give Jared Goff a guy that he can depend on, because at the end of the day, he's never really been a contested catch type of guy. Jared Goff, for that matter, he
Yeah.
wants guys to get open. He's never been that guy who's just going to throw it to a guy that's, a bigger guy who can just go up and make plays. But Allen Robinson does give you that. And like I said, he's a veteran. So I honestly think, and I had to think about this the past couple days about the receiving core, because I've been worried about it. You've been concerned about it. Um, Lamar for Spirit of Detroit, he also was on the show last week. He's been concerned about it. Could this be an opportunity where if St. Brown and Jameson Williams both stay healthy, we could just have third wide receiver by committee? I
Yeah.
think there could be games where, wow, man, Isaiah Williams really stepped up today. Then it could be games where Allen Robinson had 6 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. He stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be games where it's just random guys who have a good game based upon matchups. And if that happens, I'm rolling with it, because at the end of the day, it keeps the bus moving forward. We don't have to worry about, well, who's going to be the etched in stone third guy. That doesn't have to always be the case, because you have an all pro, Pro Bowl caliber tight end.
Yeah.
You have an all pro, Pro Bowl #1 wide receiver in St. Brown. You have a guy in Jameson Williams who looks like he's back to what his persona was in college. So maybe we don't really need a concrete third wide receiver.
Yeah. Yeah. By committee. Yeah. Yeah. Like you said, maybe out of that position, as long as you can get, you know, 80 catches combined out of Khalif Raymond,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And X, X, Y, and Z guy. You know
Eight
what I'm saying?
touchdowns out of 4 guys.
Yeah, you can get that. You know what I'm saying? I just want to hit real quick, Walt, that the practice squad.
Mhm.
Diamond People Jones is on the practice squad. So he's still within the organization. Maybe at some point we do see him during the season, Walt. There's a couple guys that I was kind of rooting for as well. Well, first of all, I'm glad you called this like a couple weeks ago. Correct me if I'm wrong. The center, I can't pronounce his name.
Kingsley
Uh,
Ngakwe.
yeah, Ngakwe, yeah, from Florida, right? Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's ironic, like you said, that they kind of kept him around at center, and he's on the practice squad. And I think that kid does have some talent, man. You know what I'm saying? I think he's a good young.
Should have
Um,
been drafted.
yep,
I
he
think
should
he
have
had a
been
couple
drafted.
injuries or whatnot, but yeah, you have
Great
to
guy to
keep a
have an
young center.
organization. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Good guy to have an organization. Pat O'Connor was kind of intriguing. He was on a couple teams, been journeyman from the Tampa Bay Bucks last year. He's on the roster. Jake Fromm, quarterback from Georgia, he's on the practice squad as well as that third quarterback. Jamar Jefferson, we kind of see him every year on the
Sticks
practice
around.
squad.
No Craig Reynolds though.
Yeah, no Craig Reynolds. Right, right. Craig Reynolds made the roster. Shane Zylstra and James Mitchell. Well, very surprising that those two guys didn't make the roster. One of them, at least. I like Shane Zylstra. I kind of like James Mitchell. I don't know. It's like James Mitchell. He kind of got robbed with injury a little bit the first year. Like, kind of had a slow start at the beginning. You know what I'm saying?
I
But
think
remember,
Laporta killed his development too.
yeah, hell
Him
yeah, yeah.
being Laporta being that damn good that early, because they
Hmm.
they wanted James Mitchell, I believe, to win the job when they drafted him. They
Hmm.
had been scouting him for the previous couple years at Virginia Tech. He suffered that ACL injury, which kind of set him back. You and I at the beginning of last season, remember during last off season, you and I were discussing James Mitchell playing a major role in his offense, but that was prior to seeing what Laporta
Hmm.
eventually was going to be able to do. But yeah, I think James just got caught in a bad situation where, like, Laporta turned out to be better earlier, way quicker than we thought he would.
Yeah, yeah, yep, and correct. And then I thought Shane Zylstra. I mean, Shane, remember he got hurt last year in preseason and wrecked this whole season. I
Yeah,
thought Shane Zylstra could be like a more hybrid type. He's a tight end, but he's got a big body. I think they kind of was moving him to receiver, and I think Dan Campbell they were saying last year that that was their plan. So maybe they bring him up during the season. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it's a guy they bring. Isaac Okwu was another guy they brought back. I thought that was excuse me. I thought that was interesting. He made a couple sacks, big body. I kind of like him. And then one thing I wanted to talk about, just hit on Chris Smith, defensive tackle. I think he's from Notre Dame. He's been on the roster too, for about the last 3 seasons at practice squad.
Chris
Uh,
was, if
where
I'm
did
not mistaken, he was NC State. If I'm not
okay,
mistaken, yeah,
okay.
they've had their crop of their farm system of guys. Like you mentioned, Brandon Joseph. Like they've had
Hmm.
their farm system of guys. I think they're doing it differently from a lot of NFL teams. They drafting guys.
Hmm.
He wasn't drafted though. He was an undrafted free agent last year, and
Hmm.
they let him. They let him train. They
Yeah.
let him grow, and now he's the guy that made the actual roster the very next season.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. And then Kyle Petco too is another guy at D tackle.
Vet.
A couple guys that got hurt. I think the most disappointing thing is Roger Martin getting hurt. I mean, because I didn't hear, I seen when it happened, and I think the organization kept it like hush. I didn't hear like the extent of how. I just thought maybe okay, maybe he turned an ankle and he's not going to play the rest of this preseason game. Now it turns out Bradley Martin's going to be out for a while. I said I'm hearing maybe December, and it's like that's. I would have
Yeah.
high hopes for Bradley Martin, man. I don't know. That kind of didn't sit well with me. Also, we know Kaminsky's out for a little while. Or well, he's on injured reserve actually, and then one other Christian Mahogany. That was another guy I was
Yeah.
interested in seeing, but Mahogany is like that's another one. It says NFI by his name. I don't know what that means. They said maybe it's an illness or something that
I
he's
heard
been
that's
dealing.
been going on since the beginning of is it
Yeah.
OTAs though. So they've been
Mhm.
hush hush about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they real high on Kristen Mahogany, and so
Yeah.
unfortunately, he's not probably going to see the field maybe for anytime soon. So, yeah, I mean, those guys, like I said, really no surprises other than Isaiah Williams making a roster and Brandon Joseph making a roster, and then they did take the.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I got you.
Okay, I hit the button by mistake. Um, Yeah, I was glad to see Sound and Vaki get some time because usually sometimes too we fall prey victim of having high hopes for a guy and then he's merely just a project. The organization sees him as a project. I think this year's project, like last year was Project Martin, this year is Giovanni Manu, and I was kind of hoping that Vaki wasn't going to be that guy either. You know what I'm saying? But it looks like they got a role for him. You know what I mean? That he's going to play. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm ready for the season, man. I mean, the season kicks off, you know what I mean, this coming Thursday. So, we able to see all the teams play Thursday, Friday, and Sunday, and then we play, the Rams on Sunday night. So, we're gonna be able to take in a lot of football. We're gonna be able to gauge everything, off just 1 week of play, but we're gonna basically see everybody play, and then we're gonna be when we play, we're going to be the only team playing. You know what I'm saying? The only game that's on. So I think it's a big stage. I think that, just like last year when we played the Rams in the playoffs, you look at, just think about Wall how the season ended last year. Us, being a half away from making the Super Bowl, didn't make it, disappointed, and then that. Going through the NFL draft process, having a draft here in Detroit, you know what I'm saying? Hitting a home run in the draft again, excitement with OTAs and training camp, preseason's over. Now we're back with another season. And I think that's the whole process is coming to crescendo here when these guys suit up in them, like you said, 9 days and play. So
Yeah. Cause we got about 5 minutes left. I just want to touch on I think some of the strengths I've noticed through the depth chart of this team. Some of the spots that used to be weaknesses. I think the safety position, you talking about Brian Branch. They kept four safeties: Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Afiatu Melifonwu, and Brandon Joseph.
yeah,
I think that's a very good safety room right there. You're
yeah.
looking at the cornerback position with guys like, you brought Carlton Davis in via free agency. You drafted Ennis Rakestraw Jr. out of Missouri, Terrion Arnold for Alabama. Amik Robinson was a free agent signing. from the Raiders. Then you're looking at Emmanuel Mosley, who's not going to give us anything this season. I think it's kind of safe to say that. Guys like Kendall Vildor and Khalil Dorsey can now slide into their positions where they should be, which I believe is like the fourth and fifth corners. Guys who you don't need to depend on. Hopefully, you won't have to depend on until, you know, if injuries start happening to the earlier part of the depth chart with the cornerback position. But
Yeah.
also, I think the defensive line
Yeah.
overall has gotten better. Guys like Bugs and Kaminsky, guys who, well, Bugs are gone now, but I think Kaminsky's a guy who, even if he didn't get hurt, probably wouldn't see a whole lot of snaps because I think we've gotten better talent
Yep.
wise. Josh Pascal looks a whole lot better.
Yeah.
Bringing Davenport in, a 6'6", 270-pound power rushing defensive end. Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, who we hope can give us, 12, 13, 14 games this season. Levi looks good. If he's healthy, I think he helps. Mekhi Wingo, I'm a big Mekhi Wingo fan.
Yeah. Me too.
Even going to the other end of the defensive line with Aiden Hutchinson, James Houston, the linebacking core, I think we have a lot of strengths on defense now under this regime, which is
Hmm.
something we were never able to say under any other Lions regime, except for maybe Jim Schwartz. I think
Yeah.
Jim Schwartz put forth a solid effort
Yeah.
to get a good defense here. But for one reason, a 6, a 7, or 8, things didn't work out for Schwartz and that defense overall here with Nick Fairley and Sue and
Kyle
Ezekiel and
Vandenbosch.
Ezekiel Ansall, guys like that. But yeah, I think there's a chance where, and you said this last year, where you felt like the defense may be the strength of the team early on. I feel that way this season,
Yeah, I do too.
because I just
Yep.
think that it's gonna, unless Jameson just becomes a different type of wide receiver that can be like a really dependable pass catchy wise, a really dependable number two. They're gonna have games where they're gonna really have to lean on the run game. But as you and I both mentioned, we just want to see them defensively create shorter fields for the offense. We need more takeaways. I'm not as caught up in the yards and rankings when it comes to that stuff, but if they can be a top 5 rush defense again, and maybe be somewhere middle of the pack when it comes to takeaways, somewhere between the top 10 and maybe the top 13 in takeaways, whatever, creating shorter fields. I think this is a defense. This is a team overall, I believe, that can really light up the scoreboard. And they're right there on the cusp, I believe, of getting right back to the NFC Championship and, potentially playing the Chiefs or the Ravens or whoever it may be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, facts. I couldn't agree more. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, coming back here, in a couple days, we're gonna be previewing the next couple days, what our
Rams week.
yeah, Rams week, what our expectations are. Walt, it's ready. We ready for the season, man. It's game time. It's show time for us. Use this content time. People can come here and get all they Lions, everything, from top to bottom, the X's and O's, game stats, everything that you need to get through the week and get ready for Sunday. So
Yep. All right, man. We gave these people 30 minutes of in-depth Lions talk. We didn't get too deep past anything other than the roster moves, which is what pretty much we aim to do. But as you mentioned, we got Rams week next week. We'll be doing videos breaking down the Rams, scouting the Los Angeles Rams and Matthew Stafford. We'll be doing the video game planning, what we need to do offensively as well as defensively
yeah,
to make sure we don't fall victim to an ambush from the Rams in week 1, because it can happen. We're talking about really good playoff team versus another really good playoff team.
that's a good team, man. The
The
Rams
Rams
are
are
very.
capable of coming in here and beating us. We're not going
Oh
to act
yeah,
like they're not capable of it. So we'll be discussing next week what the Lions need to do offensively as well as defensively to beat the Los Angeles Rams, as well as expectations for the 2024 season. So everyone, have a wonderful Saturday. We'll see y'all next week.